Ever wondered why you want to buy a fancy new car, renovate your kitchen, or buy a set of whole new clothes? Hi, I'm research psychologist Rogers Follansbee. We all have a general idea of why we do the things we do, at least on the surface. We eat because we're hungry and dance because we like a certain tune. We yell at Peter because Peter yelled at us. And we want a fancy car because we need a little boost to our self-image. What we don't know is what really and truly motivates all these actions. So, for those of you who are interested in such things, here's a little glimpse into how this all works. The first thing you should keep in mind is that we're all logically structured relational beings, and we remain alive as long as we continue being relational. Indeed, we ourselves are identified with the relationships we have. This because every relationship we have keeps us alive and forms a part of who each one of us is. The only problem is that not all relationships are 100% perfectly aligned with who each one of us is, not by a long shot. For example, let's say that you're having lunch with your friend Jerry. When it's time for dessert, you might ask Jerry if you'd like to split a piece of cherry pie. Turns out, Jerry doesn't like cherry pie, so of course, he doesn't want to share a slice. As a result, you remain in a relationship with Jerry, but there'll be something about that relationship that isn't quite right about it. There's something about that relationship that's contradictory to who you are. You're someone who wants to split a piece of cherry pie in that particular case, but a part of the person you are doesn't. That's Jerry. As a result, a relational contradiction occurs between the logically living human that you are and that part of you that comes from your friend Jerry. Understand that Jerry forms a part of who you are because you are in relationship with Jerry. As a result, there'll be a psychological consequence to this logical incompatibility. You may not say anything, but your day will change ever so slightly, and so will your behavior. So, what does this all have to do with wanting to buy a fancy new car? Pretty much everything. Remember, the only reason any of us remain alive is because we relate to the world around us. This means that, believe it or not, picking the right relationship is, psychologically speaking, a question of life or death. And sure, splitting a piece of cherry pie with someone may not feel all that crucial to one's existence, but to some degree, it's as crucial as the very air we breathe. In other words, our survival to some degree, and often in ways that are almost undetectable, depends entirely on the relationships that we have, whether they agree with who we are or they don't. Now, about that car, having an object that is positively identified with who each one of us is can give us a virtual joust of relational confirmation. Such confirmations keep us relationally active and relationally alive. When we relate ourselves to objects that will be positively admired, we benefit psychologically because those objects of admiration have become a part of who we are. To take this a step further, only positive driving forces with positive promises can move us forward in life as we complete the 3 psychological requirements we all have, and we all have to live by. Relate, continue relating, and receive confirmation of the relationships we have. This means that in certain cases, a fancy new car can get us a lot of positive attention, or at least we think it can. When we do something that we believe will enhance the relationships we have with our environment, we are merely conforming to the requirements of our psychological structure. This is why we may want to buy a fancy car, go on a special vacation, or buy some new clothes. It may also keep us quiet when a contradiction appears, or to the contrary, inspire us to make a scene in protest. In other words, we will live our lives according to what we think will secure our best chance of receiving positive approval from the world around us. Again, continuing to relate, and receiving confirmation from our relationships are the most efficient and effective ways to gain affirmation from the things and the people around us. Will buying a fancy car help us do that? It might, so we'll give it a shot. Besides, it'll get us where we're going in ways we think are admirable, ways that our environment will applaud. At least we think that they will. And sometimes a constructive thought is all we need to energize our forward-moving relational lives. Thank you for watching.
Understand why we all think, feel, and do the things we do. Read It's Not Your Fault by Rogers Follansbee. Link in the comments below.